What if General Grievous survived and joined the Rebel Alliance? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The cyborg screams in pain as fire blooms across his chest. He staggers and howls, trying to regain his composure. However, he doesn't have the chance as Obi-Wan lines up another shot and fires. Grievous barely manages to dodge the strike, moving out of the way and staring. He searches desperately for his weapons, trying to grab his lightsabers, but they are nowhere to be found, and another shot grazes his body. In desperation, the general throws himself over the ledge to the waters below. He hits the pool with a thunderous crash and vanishes into its depths. Obi-Wan looks down and sees no sign of him resurfacing. He is tempted to head back and check for him, but he knows there are more pressing matters to attend to. The battle proves to be pivotal, but completely unexpected as the clones turn against Obi-Wan not long after, forcing the Jedi to retreat and leaving Grievous in the waters. As he sinks deeper, his systems begin to fade, and the general closes his eyes, powering off. With both generals presumed dead, the two armies continue to battle until the droids are shut off. But not all of the CIS are affected, as a few organic soldiers remain, going into hiding or taking what droid forces they can reactivate and retreat. But just as the Empire begins its rise, these bands of CIS holdouts begin their resistance, refusing to accept surrender and realizing that all their fears about the Republic will come true if they do not take action. Among those is Dissix, which remains one of the few CIS rebel worlds. However, their forces are few, and their governor dispatches her organic soldiers to back up Utapau to recover the remains of General Grievous. The cyborg warrior's capabilities were legendary, and they might be able to reverse engineer some of the technology used to create a new generation of droids. Among this is Colonel Hama, one of the few organics who fought for the Separatists during Utapau. She is soon dispatched with a team to recover his remains and whatever else they can obtain from the ruins of the battlefield. With the Empire occupying the planet, her team disguises itself as a cleanup crew and salvages the droids that remain scattered all over the city. There are thousands of them, many still intact enough to salvage, but Hama leaves these to the rest of the cleanup crew as she makes her way over to the circular landing pad that marks Grievous's last known location. Yet when she arrives, there doesn't appear to be any sign of the cyborg general. According to Republic records, there are no reports of them salvaging his remains, and even among the Utapau security feeds, she finds no videos of anyone stealing it. But during the battle, she watches as Grievous staggers away, just out of sight from the camera, and then glances over the edge. She holds up her datapad, and it begins to beep over the water. Hama calls out for one of her ships to hover over and begins scrounging the remains of the water. Soon enough, it latches onto something. Her eyes widen at the sight of it. A cybernetic body, bone white, in the places not covered by algae and rust. It is sharp and angular, and would have been imposing in its best days. But now it looks like hell. Hama immediately brings the remains back to Dissix, where the scientists begin working on repairing the cyborg. They toil tirelessly on Grievous, replacing the damaged mechanical parts and restoring those that remain. The organic pieces are more difficult, as they have nothing they can simply replace them with, but instead try to clone pieces as best they can, or remove parts and place them in bacta-tanks where they can hopefully regrow. This takes many weeks of hard labor, but at least the science team feels confident that they have managed to repair the cyborg. Governor Tawny, her staff, and Hama all watch with bated breath as they begin to power up Grievous's armor, restoring functionality as well as returning his organs. The machines hum as they send jolts of electricity through the cyborg. Then there is silence. None of them dares breathe or hope as the scans indicate the power transfer is complete. Now all they can do is wait. The moment passes, and another follows. He doesn't move. The group lowers its heads as if nothing has happened. They prepare to walk away, when a hand suddenly shoots up and grabs Hama by the throat, lifting her off the ground. Grievous eyes her menacingly, and then sits up. The guards all step back, pulling the governor aside and raising their blasters. Yet none of them dare fire, not even as Hama gasps for air.
My lord, please. We are not your enemies. You are safe. This is a Separatist space. Dissix.
This seems to satisfy Grievous, who drops her to the ground and looks around, staring at the people in the room, including the droid standing watch.
So it is. How goes the war effort?
The war, General. The war is lost.
What?
He turns to face her. The guards tense once more. Yet Hama raises a hand as she quickly tries to explain everything that has happened since he was taken out. She says how the Republic had pushed back the CIS to its very fringes, but then the clones suddenly turned on the Jedi and claimed they were traitors. After that, Chancellor Palpatine declared the creation of the Empire. By the time she finishes, Grievous raises his fists and slams them down onto the table, denting the metal and leaving the rest flinching.
So after all this sacrifice, the war remains lost. The Republic has triumphed, and we are left to await our destruction.
No, General. We do not intend to meekly await our destruction. We are here to fight. It is why we have brought you back. We've come to ask for your help in stopping the Empire and fighting for our freedom.
I have no interest in your petty politics. If this war is lost, I will not die for your worthless lives.
He jumps to his feet and glares at the droids, as if daring them to open fire. None do, but Hama isn't convinced. She steps in front of the cyborg, and Grievous cocks his head, expecting her to attack. Instead, she bows.
Then fight for the sake of fighting. If you care not for our politics or our lives, then because it is what you were made for. You have led the Separatists to countless victories, and today is your chance to lead us to our greatest success.
This gets the General's attention. It had been a lifetime since anyone had ever bowed before him, not since his days on Kalish. For the first time, he is truly confused, but then begins to laugh.
I see a few warriors remain in the Separatists. Very well. Take me to your arsenal. I will take stock of what weapons we have.
Unfortunately, the sight that greets him is unimpressive. Most of their droids were recently salvaged, and they only have a few hundred working units at best, along with a handful of starfighters and a few modified wharf raiders. It is hardly enough to take on the Empire. And yet their first forces begin to arrive, as the Imperials are eager to consolidate control over its CIS territories. They send a delegation to Dissix, including its new governor, but this group is soon arrested and taken hostage. This is the first major act of defiance against the new Empire by the CIS holdouts, and the response is swift, as an Imperial task force is sent to crush them. This includes a large force of the new stormtroopers, and yet they find unexpected resistance from the reprogrammed battle droids. Although many are old and worn out, they are competently led with Grievous and a few salvaged tactical droids redirecting their attacks. As the stormtroopers try to rush the gates, they are greeted with organized waves of droids coming in from different streets to divide their attention. While the droids attack, artillery keeps them pinned and unable to launch an offensive. These are directed by Hama, who sends organic soldiers to reinforce the droids and ensure they follow instructions. Meanwhile, groups of commando droids slip out and strike at the Empire's transports and shuttles. Here, Grievous makes his appearance. While the stormtroopers try to keep this attack force back, they barely notice a shape dropping behind them until it is too late. A stormtrooper turns just in time to see the massive figure of Grievous. To the man, it seems like a being from a nightmare, a monster in all white, shrouded in a dark cloak, his face resembling a skull. The trooper barely has time to scream before a hand grabs him and tosses him aside. Then, an electrostaff ignites as Grievous rushes forward, cutting through the ship guards with practiced ease. He moves almost like a blur, metallic fists rising and falling as he tears men limb from limb or simply breaks their bones with powerful blows. Unlike the clones, these men had never encountered the cyborg general, whose name only exists in nightmares. And now that nightmare has come to life. Within minutes, all of the stormtroopers are dead, and their ships are captured. Grievous then turns his forces back and attacks the strike teams. The battle soon turns into a slaughter as they are all cut down. But as the rebels celebrate, Grievous is far from impressed. His droid forces fought adequately, but they are still woefully incompetent, and he knows that he no longer has the numbers to challenge the Empire. Soon, the first few soldiers begin to arrive. Dissidents and deserters from the Empire. Their numbers are few, but they offer their aid nonetheless. Many are former CIS soldiers, but others are allies of the Republic who do not recognize the Empire. A few are even clones who resist the Empire's decision to replace them. Among these is a grizzled sergeant named Slick, who offers to begin training the soldiers. And though he does not say it out loud, he finds himself disappointed by it. He hoped a fight against such odds might stir something up within himself, but it failed to get his blood boiling.
Congratulations on your victory, General.
This was hardly a victory worth celebrating. The strike team was small, and our forces were a poor crop. These droids are hardly worth the alloy they're built from.
Perhaps, but more will rally to our cause.
What kind of forces. Brigands, starving rebels, a few idealists. With such a force, the best we may ever achieve are a few guerrilla strikes.
It was said that you fought wars against technologically advanced armies with such forces.
Do not compare yourself to my Kish. They were warriors unlike any other.
Then maybe it's time to get a few of them.
This seems to amuse the general, but privately he seems to question this. He recalls when he had united his people against a common goal, the destruction of the Hux. That had felt like a lifetime ago, and a part of him longed for those times, so he was truly tempted. And yet, as he looks at his cybernetic hands, his pride mixes with disgust at what he is. He could never face his people again, not while looking like this. He was a god once, but like this he is simply a monster. Yet Hama is either oblivious to this, or simply doesn't care as she looks at him.
We will need their experience in warriors. The Empire got rid of their best fighters. Now is as good a chance as ever to retake control of the galaxy, while we have the initiative.
It is a foolish battle, as I have said before. Even with my people, we do not have the means of fighting such an army.
And did you not think the same when you first warred with the Hux, General?
Do you think yourself clever, human?
I think myself desperate. And when warriors are desperate, they will do whatever it takes to win.
Speak to me in such a manner again, and I will have you torn limb from a limb and fed to the Kalish. Understand?
Despite that, he agrees to journey to Kalish along with a small army of a few hundred droids. The rest of their organic troops remain on Dissix, where Slick continues to train them and organize their army. By now, Dissix has become a focal point in the rebellion. As the first planet to openly defy the Empire, many of those who wish to escape its rule journey there. The Kalish had been friendly with the CIS during the war, and as a result, the Imperials have been making probing attacks into their system. This leads them into conflict with the natives, who wage a guerrilla war against the advancing stormtroopers. The fighting is brutal, as they use dense jungles for cover and a fleet of captured ships to launch hit-and-run attacks on their forces. This puts the Empire in a difficult spot to try and put them down. This is made only worse when Grievous arrives. The cyborg is careful to keep his identity a secret, only claiming to be a warlord of the CIS. Regardless, his presence is welcomed by the Kalish. Grievous and Hama quickly join forces with the natives, and they use their knowledge of the Empire to wage war against them. Soon, the jungle air is thick with mist and fire. Imperial transports smolder in the distance, their twisted hulls half swallowed by the terrain. Kalish warriors, masked and painted, emerge from the shadows, silent, ghost-like, surrounding the wreckage. They do not speak and only move as they receive instructions from above. Grievous stands at the ridge above them. He wears a dark cloak over his bone-white armor, partially restored but scarred. His claws curl tightly around the hilt of his electrostaff as he surveys the battlefield. They have used their experience in Imperial doctrine to launch ambushes. He watches the Kalish below rush at the party from all sides, fighting with the fire he once carried. But they do not recognize him, not truly. To them, he is a myth made of metal. And still, they bow. They follow his instructions to the letter, swarming the Imperials and rushing in close to lay in with blades. By the time they emerge, they bear the heads of dead Imperials and present them to Grievous. Then, without command, the warriors strike their fists to their chests in unison. Grievous feels something shift deep inside, buried beneath wires and synth flesh. He cannot name it, not yet. But for the first time since the Clone Wars, he does not feel like a shell. He feels like a commander. Later, the army regroups in a nearby settlement, but as they approach, they make their way over to the temple, and Grievous is filled with a rare moment of apprehension. Atop the temple is a stone slab. The mural depicts a warlord standing above a pile of slain Huck. The face is alien, but the posture is familiar. His posture. All the Kalish bow before it, giving thanks for their victory.
You were worshipped, not just feared, revered, as a warrior god.
I was, before the Sith caged me in this thing.
It isn't long before the Imperials are driven out, and soon the war expands. With this success, the Kalish eagerly offer their services to the growing war effort. Battlefields across Outer Rim CIS worlds ignite. Grievous leads ambushes with brutal precision. Droids move with uncanny coordination, and they grow in strength with each attack. The worlds apprehensive of the Empire's growing control rally to his cause. Some like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma regard this growing CIS army, but also see its potential. They offer their allegiance provided that the CIS rebels control themselves. Grievous's brutality is the stuff of legends, and they would not like a repeat of his actions during Dirge's lance. They urge the military leaders to restrain him, and while many agree, they know it truly isn't up to them. Even while they might hesitate, other groups eagerly pledge their soldiers to the CIS's cause. Many of the former Republic worlds even offer their aid. To them, they see only the promised security of the Empire, but also the legend of Grievous. One has only promises and words to back them up, the other half a decade's worth of accomplishments. Soon enough, chaos spreads across half a dozen systems as the general makes sudden appearances across battlefields. Rebel cells whisper his tactics, copy his formations. Stormtroopers speak of him in hushed tones. The general still lives. Deserters flood to Dissix. Former clones, aging but still deadly, rally to the cause. Led by Sergeant Slick, they begin drilling new recruits. Former CIS engineers reactivate and reforge old droid foundries. B-2 units march again. Commando droids begin guerrilla raids. Grievous sees flashes, dreams. He walks among firelit temples, holding a living blade, wearing the war cries of his people. And her, Ronderu, his beloved. During the heart of battle, he catches glimpses of her, as if she were there, fighting by his side. And when that happens, Grievous enters a state of battle fury, tearing through enemy soldiers, guided by the spirit of his long-lost wife. Each time the others see this, they can only stare in awe as the general takes the lead without need for their army. Colonel Hamma watches this and shouts for her men to rush forward. They raise the banners of the CIS behind them, and the troops stream forward. But when the battle rage passes, Grievous's eyes flicker, staring at Rondaru once again, but finds her gone. All he can do is stalk off, muttering to himself as an emptiness washes over him. Yet that feeling does not last as another attack comes. Within weeks, the jungle burns as Imperial bombers rain fire upon the trees. Ash drifts through the canopy like snow. Monuments of stone, towering grave pillars etched with Kalish war chants, crumble before this attack. Stormtroopers comb the ruins, laughing as they torch the ceremonial banners and topple ancestral shrines. Behind them are incinerators and artillery troopers to bulldoze what remains. The Kalish worship this place as a shrine. The Empire will make it their tomb. The screams of dying warriors echo through the valley. Warriors rush in, roaring in mad abandon, trying desperately to save their sacred grounds. The Kalish outpace their allies, eager to avenge this sacrilege, and many pay with their lives. But the ground is also covered with the pale armor of stormtroopers. Grievous roars and beckons his troops forward. Behind him, Colonel Hamma urges the rest of the army forward so they can support their Kalish allies. But by the time they begin trickling through, a figure steps through the chaos, robed in black and crimson. His mask is sharp. He ignites a lightsaber and rushes at Grievous.
You think this place sacred, Grievous? Your people worship bones and ghosts. I remember you on Hypori, Selukami, Coruscant, back when you still thought yourself a god. Now look at you, rusting and alone.
The fifth brother raises his crimson blade. Kalish defenders rush him, spears raised, but they fall in seconds, cut down like weeds before the spinning blades of his lightsaber. Grievous doesn't roar when he arrives. He says nothing. Instead, he twirls his staffs around and leaps into the burning trees. A moment later, he drops like a shadow, slamming into the earth behind the Inquisitor. Steel and crimson clash like thunder. Grievous moves with fury, more beast than machine, his claws shrieking as they carve stone and flesh alike. The fifth brother matches him in strength, but his lightsaber skills fall short. Though he is no Jedi, Grievous keeps up with his fighting style. He slashes through his defenses and leaves fifth brother's armor sparking. Grievous raises his weapons high, but the Inquisitor hurls him back with a force blast, staggering the cyborg. But Grievous is unfazed. When he charges at Grievous, believing him unbalanced, the cyborg rushes to meet him, vision flickering between the present and his past. Hypori, Coruscant, the Huck Wars. His rage burns across decades.
You were a failure, a pet project, an animal in a cage.
Grievous cuts him off, literally. One final charge, a feint, then both hands surge forward. He impales the Inquisitor, lifts him off the ground, and tears the sabers from his dying grip.
I was a warrior, and you were never a Jedi. But I will add your lightsaber to my collection nonetheless.
But the battle is not won. Fires still rage. Kalish corpses line the broken path to the burial pillars. Their sacred valley is soaked in blood. It lasts for hours as the Imperials fight to the last, and when it's over, their bodies, along with countless rebels, dot the floor. Later, the fires are out. The survivors dig quietly, shoulders slumped. They lay their fallen kin in rows, whispering ancient rites beneath their breath. A mourning chant echoes in the background, low and rasping, like the wind before a storm. Grievous stands alone atop a ruined shrine, the broken half of a carved god still clutched in one hand. He says nothing. His eyes glow dimly. His breath is ragged. Colonel Hamma approaches, low and careful.
They said the Inquisitor is dead. You killed him.
What victory is there in killing one traitor, when my people bleed from 100 wounds?
They fought for you. They followed you.
They followed a myth, a name carved into bone and memory. But I am not that name. I am what remains of it. A shell, a weapon. I brought them death, not salvation.
With all due respect, General, you're mistaken. Men follow you because they know what you are and what you represent. You do not play by the Republic's rules, even as they preach tolerance and restraint, while our foes burn everything we hold dear, while they fatten themselves upon our suffering. You remind us that we still have teeth on which to fight.
Grievous looks up at the young colonel. For the first time, he sees a spark of fire in her as she kneels down and places her fist into the palm of her hand.
You speak with much passion, Colonel. Tell me, where is it from?
I was with you. All throughout the war, I fought alongside you from Hypuri to Utapau. Grunts like me were always told that the Jedi made the rules. They controlled the Force, so the rest of us could only keep our heads bowed and obeyed. But I can't say how many Jedi I've seen you cut down. You, without their precious powers, only a soldier's spirit. You reminded us they are still mortal as this Emperor. My lord, I beg you. The Jedi are gone, but you remain. That is no coincidence.
And yet the CIS are gone. I have only my name to bring obedience. The Kalish will not follow my name.
Not Grievous, but they will follow Kaimain High Shilal.
Not long after, a fresh counterattack begins, one that spreads out across a large swath of CIS-controlled space. Ships emerge, launching lightning strikes across a dozen locations. All of these are meant to contest the control of the Empire. The largest of these attacks comes from Kalish, where Grievous cuts a swath of destruction. He intentionally targets undefended worlds, or those that the Imperials struggle to defend. It is clear that nothing is off the table for Palpatine, and so nothing is off the table for Grievous, just as it wasn't for the Republic. Yet this time, Grievous does not hide his presence. He instead broadcasts himself launching these attacks, daring Palpatine to strike him down. He gets his answer soon enough, as a large fleet is dispatched to hunt down Grievous. They chase his leaner force across the galaxy, hunting him down until he makes his stand on Selukami, where his army awaits. They regroup with the other raiding forces and prepare for the attack. But as they prepare for their arrival, Grievous stands before his men and regards them thoughtfully. Then he raises his head.
Warriors of this rebellion, I have stood alongside you for many cycles in this war to avenge our people. I have shed blood and am proud to have seen your ferocity, especially you, brave sons and daughters of Kalish. Many of you know me as Grievous, but there was a time when I was known as something else.
An uneasy ripple echoes across his army camp as they look at him, wondering what this could mean. Grievous lets it linger before raising his fist, but with his other hand, he reaches for his mask and pulls it off. The army recoils in horror at the grotesque, disfigured face that lies underneath. Years of scarring and burns have left it a mess of flesh, yet the cyborg does not seem ashamed.
This is the price of accepting peace with the Republic, a mark of their diplomacy and a product of their schemes. Make no mistake, they will unleash scars like this upon you. upon your worlds, and upon your people, if you let them. No, this is no longer a battle for freedom. This is a battle for survival. And if we shall burn, then this empire shall burn with us.
A cheer goes up amongst the people. Many raise their weapons and chant Grievous's name. But it does not stop there. Many more raise, especially amongst the Kalish. He focuses on them and bows.
To my beloved Kalish, I stand by your side today. Not as Grievous, but as the name you knew me in life. Kaimain Hai Shila.
Just as quickly, the cheers go silent, and men stare in surprise. Kalish watch the cyborg, wondering if this is some sort of dream. But then some begin to bow, others raise their weapons, and more begin to cry.
When I left you, I was a demigod. But let this battle make me a god. Let us etch our names on our ancestral shrines so that all beings who enter our lands will quake in fear at the knowledge of what warriors await them.
The scream that follows is deafening, and Grievous looks at them.
Prepare for war!
The warriors all around him roar and rush forward. Rather than just waiting for the Imperials to reach them, he urges them to go on the offensive and strike at their advancing forces. Reprogrammed biker droids lead the charge, lowering their lances and rushing in, running down foot soldiers and jamming their spears into the enemy armor. For a moment there is chaos as the Imperial forces struggle to respond to this sudden attack, but their commanders soon shout orders that reorganize their army and set up counterattacks. ATSTs redirect their fire at these fast-moving speeders, allowing the infantry to form up. But just then, the droid forces arrive, pouring fire and ignoring the counterattacks by the enemy. They are followed by the clones and other organic soldiers, careful to advance behind the cover of their droids, letting them soak up the fire. The last to advance are the Kalish, who strike from the flanks, ripping into enemy lines and uttering their ferocious battle cries. Soon after, all of the forces have been committed save for a small reserve force of droids kept back by Grievous in case Palpatine shows up. Grievous, meanwhile, throws himself into combat with his new lightsaber in hand. The crimson blade cuts through the Imperials with ease as he fights his way into the thickest combat. All around him, stormtroopers fall and walkers are destroyed. The Imperial forces begin to withdraw, and it seems like Grievous may win this battle outright. But then, on the horizon, more forces arrive. Massive AT-ATs that were kept hidden and intended to draw out the Separatist forces. Now their blaster cannons rain fire upon them. The offensive turns into a retreat, but Grievous lingers behind, spying a figure atop the lead walker. Emperor Palpatine watches from an observation platform. Snarling defiantly, the cyborg hops atop his speeder and rushes to face him. He weaves through blaster fire until one stray bolt grazes his engine and leaves the speeder smoking. The cyborg leaps out and lands atop the platform, lightsaber igniting in his hand. Palpatine smiles and readies his weapon.
So, the scrap pile still sparks. I am surprised you lasted this long, but now you have time to join the other droids in the incinerator.
Roaring, Grievous lunges. His lightsabers flash, but Palpatine is faster and dodges. He leaps over these strikes and lands atop the ledge of his platform, perfectly balancing as he thrusts his lightsabers at him. Grievous jerks to the side and parries the next strike. He attempts to lunge at the Emperor, but his lightsabers only seem to bite the air. Palpatine lands behind him and fires a burst of force energy that tries to force him down. Grievous nearly topples over, but he manages to grab onto the ledge and swing back beneath the railing to kick Palpatine back. This sends him careening onto one of the control panels, which begins to spark and sends them tumbling to the ground. As they both take hold of the railing, Grievous tries to stab at him, but Palpatine pushes aside each strike and then hurls a burst of lightning that forces Grievous to defend. It is only when they hit the ground and are thrown off that the attack stops. Before rushing back in, Grievous hits the control panel and activates his remaining droids. He then rushes towards Palpatine, his lightsaber spinning in his hand as he leaps up and tries to bring them down. But the Emperor blocks each strike, and the two exchange blows. Even with 4 arms, Grievous can barely land a hit. Palpatine casually steps back, slowly giving ground as he blocks each strike. The Emperor soon hears the crackling of electricity behind him and sees half a dozen Magna Guards rushing at him from all directions. Yet the Emperor only laughs as he dodges their attacks, almost dancing between these strikes before his lightsaber flashes. Most of the droids barely predict what happens as they make contact and cut through them. In a few minutes, all of the droids lay dead, and Palpatine contemptuously hurls one of the sparking remains towards Grievous, sending him sprawling.
Fool, did you think these droids would be enough to end me?
No, not those droids.
He raises up his scanner, which beeps faintly as they detect microdroids built into the Magna Guard's chassis. Palpatine's eyes widen as Grievous suddenly hurls the droid at him and knocks Palpatine down. Before he can react, a shuttle flies overhead. Hama opens the bay door and urges Grievous up. The cyborg fires his grappling gun towards it and lets it propel him away, leaving Palpatine to scream as Grievous hits the detonator and sends all the Magna Guards exploding simultaneously. The Emperor disappears before an explosion of brilliant yellow and orange. This explosion also knocks several AT-ATs off balance, allowing the CIS forces to rally and organize a counterattack. By the end, some of them whisper that the attack was actually caused by Grievous summoning divine powers to smite Palpatine. And in the end, his Kalish chant his name, raising their fists in the air. He is no longer simply a demigod, but the god of war. Rather than try to take over the Empire, Grievous has no interest in that. Instead, his focus is on the conquest of the Outer Rim. He allies with proxies who fight the Empire in its heartland, leaving him free to rise above the ashes of the Clone War and emerge as the god of war. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.